Welcome to the G5 Hive and our next installment of our Worker Bee series, where we deep dive into the G5 college football landscape with the folks that know the teams the best. If you're watching us on YouTube, please hit that like and subscribe button. If you're listening to us in podcast form, please rate and review. Today, we'll be taking a look at the Georgia Southern Eagles, who finished 6-7 last season and capped off their 2023 season with an appearance in the Myrtle Beach Bowl. They wrapped up their 2024 spring practice with their spring game on April 20th. We have some special guests joining us today. GATA is a podcast dedicated to all things Georgia Southern Eagles football. It is for the fans. It is by the fans. He is Matt. He is Cody. Together, they are GATA Talk. They can be found at GATA Talk Podcast on X. Welcome to the show, boys.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
All right, so moving over to the football team, Brian Ellis resigned as the offensive coordinator and is now the tight ends coach at Alabama. Coach Helton didn't need to look too far for his new offensive coordinator. Ryan Applin moves from being the tight end coach to now being the offensive coordinator and the quarterbacks coach. On top of being the tight end coach in previous years, he was also the inside receivers and passing game coordinator for the past two seasons. We would assume that Coach Applin isn't planning on changing things up too much from a scheme point of view, but would you agree with that? And maybe there's wrinkles we'll see, or what can you kind of tell us about this offense here in 2024?
Yeah, it shouldn't deviate too much from what we've seen the past couple of years. Coach Applin was the offensive coordinator. He has offensive coordinator experience going back to North Alabama a few years ago when he was there. I think he was also co-OC at Western Kentucky when he was there with Ellis and Coach Tyson Helton up there. But I don't see it to really be any sort of like complete overhaul change. Probably same scheme, probably same verbiage even when it comes down to it. I think the main thing that what Matt and I will probably be focusing on is he's also taking over the quarterback coaching role as well, which is what Ellis had. And I don't know, you know this, but the previous two seasons, interceptions has been a high rate for both of our quarterbacks, with Mike DeVantrice and with Bryn. And so I'll be more interested to see just how well does he coach our quarterbacks. Obviously, there's going to be a new one. And how does the turnover rate, does it take a dive or does it stay up that high, 15, 20 interception mark going forward? So, no, as far as the scheme goes, no, it shouldn't be much change. But I'm more interested to see just how his take on coaching the quarterbacks go this season.
Yeah, QB development is so big, and I mean we've had back-to-back fifth year transfers right coming in, one and dones, and I would say not a whole lot of progression or not a lot of progression with that position. I mean, both years almost kind of got worse as the season went on. I think Cody nailed it. That's a key, is just how can we, now that we have a stable of quarterbacks, younger guys, how can we develop them?
Well, let's talk about that quarterback room. Last season's starter, Davis Bryn, he no longer has any eligibility. Kobe Walton transfers to Tennessee Tech. Bo Allen transferred to Kentucky. They brought in Dexter Williams II from Indiana. J.C. French returns. As a freshman, he was 13 of 16 for 122 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. How did the quarterback room look in the spring?
Yeah. So it looked competitive, to be honest with you. And there's somebody that you haven't mentioned that is also in the running for the starting job is David Dallas. All three guys have played extremely well in spring. They all each have their own strengths and weaknesses. Obviously, with J.C. French and David Dallas, they've been here for a year or two and have really studied under the system and been through the practices and everything and seen the film and been in the quarterback room, so forth. Dexter Williams obviously is the transfer from Indiana, is still probably playing catch up and trying to learn as much of the playbook and verbiage and signals and everything else as he can. But has probably the athleticness that you're looking for, dual guy, run and throw, has a kind of an X factor to him. But as of right now, I think it's still a 3-horse race going into fall. And we won't really know who it's going to be probably until the Friday night before we play Boise, to be honest.
Yeah, which is, like I mentioned before, right? Very different. We, the last 2 years with the kind of one and done loaners, the transfer portal, we knew pretty much coming out of spring, certainly going into fall practice, there was no question marks going into the first game of who QB1 was. This year, I agree, it's the 3-player race, which is a good problem to have. I think, like Cody said, they all seem to be pretty even at this point. Is that where we want them to be? I don't know. But it's good to have that competition, where before we had very little depth in that room. Obviously we had a drastic switch from a run heavy scheme to a pass heavy air raid scheme once Clay Helton came on board. And we made that transition pretty well, right in 2018, throwing for 4,500 yards from Calvin Trees. But sustainability is the key, right? So, it's good to have some young guys in there. And again, will just be interesting to see how that develops and plays out.
Well, you got an exciting game week 1 against Boise State. Like you said, it's a three horse race here at quarterback. Who do you feel is the favorite in your eyes, or what you're hearing or whatnot around town?
I think Matt and I may have a little bit of difference on this. I think it'll come down, honestly, I think it'll be J.C. French that'll get the start, just because he's had the year to sit behind Davis Brin. This is his second spring that he's gone through with the team. I think he probably feels a lot more comfortable in the system and knows. And he got some playing time, not much, but he did get some playing time last year. So he should be not as comfortable as you expect to have as a quarterback. And then in terms of Dexter Williams or David Dallas, I think it could be really a toss-up. I think it's just really who wants it more. Yeah. But I would not be surprised if it's J.C. French that starts week 1. And then, if there's any issues or for some reason there's any sort of problems, to see a quick switch to one of the other two guys, Dexter Williams or David Dallas. Probably Dexter Williams, but I think either one I wouldn't be surprised if there's a quick switch if there's any issues in that Boise State game.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. If I was a betting man, I would definitely say J.C. French right now gets the first snap of the season against Boise. But if you believe Phil Steele, right, I know Cody and I are both avid readers of his football preview. He actually has Dexter Williams third on the depth chart. And I know, he obviously does his research and talks to the coaches. I know he talked to Helton last year. I didn't see a post from him if he talked to him this year. He did. There you go. So, and I'm sure he asked the question, whether or not, how forthcoming Helton was, who knows? But yeah, he has J.C. French 1, David Dallas 2, and Dexter Williams 3rd. And maybe that's just because, he's behind on the learning curve of the playbook. And that can obviously change going into the season. But, it's interesting with Dexter Williams because, again, he's that transfer. I mean, J.C. French was too, right? He's been in the system for 2 years now, but he was a transfer from Memphis, only spent 1 year there and transferred down. But, where David Dallas was a high school recruit. But Dexter Williams coming from Indiana. He is a semi-local kid from Macon, Georgia, was a highly recruited kid, 24th or 25th, I believe, dual threat quarterback in the country coming out of high school. Did have 2 knee injuries, ACL tears. Of course, we've seen Michael Penix Jr. right bounce back from that and be a Heisman finalist, and now with the Falcons. Not comparing the two by any measure, but the medical field has come a long way, right? Players can bounce back from knee injuries. So that's a concern, I guess, injury bug as well as the learning curve. But I have to wonder, like, what did they tell him, right? What did they sell him on? Why us, right? Why did he come here? So if it ends up him being the 3rd string quarterback, he's probably not with us very long. But what we can hope for is that we play the best player and the player that's ready. So that's what I'm hoping for. And again, probably J.C. French if we had to make that decision today.
So for somebody who's never caught a Southern game, And, just looking at the stats, like I read the stats, 13 for 16, 122. But what does that look like? What is his game? How would you describe it?
French is more mobile than what we've seen with Van Treese and Bren. He was mostly brought in on design runs last year. That was one knock on Ellis, was some of the play calling decisions. It became very predictable. I would say, he was put in third and short situations and just kind of QB design run. And most of the time would get stuffed. I don't have his stats up, but he probably had negative rushing yards. I'm not sure. But he is a more mobile guy. We saw it when he did get actual playing time to like drop back pass. He can create with his feet. He's not probably going to be the fastest guy in the QB room. That's probably Dexter Williams. But he is elusive and he can create. So I would say, that brings something with like breaking in some new offensive linemen. And if we have like injury bug hit us like we did 2 years ago on the line, like I think that's definitely a huge benefit that we haven't had the last 2 years. So I do think that you might see, maybe some more designed rollouts and play action on motion and things like that with French. I don't know if Cody has anything to add.
I would just say he has there's more mobility in the QB room right now than we've had the past 2 years. I think French has a great touch on his ball. There's a pass. If you go back and watch the App State game, trust me, it's a blowout for App State. It's not one that we particularly want to go back and watch, but he does have a touchdown pass in that game. That's a very nice pass. It had to put a little touch on it and put it right into a spot. So to me, I think I'll get back to what I kind of stated in the previous spot where if he can keep the interceptions and the turnovers down, I think he could really excel, and he may be somebody that we're looking up, and he's probably, if it all goes right, second, third team Sun Belt, if not higher, by the time that the season is over with. But again, he has to get through the competition. Again, a very tough competition in that quarterback room if he wants a spot.
Yeah. Is Dallas a mobile option too, or is he more of a prototypical pocket guy?
From what I've seen, he's more of a prototypical pocket guy. Now, it's been since his senior year of high school that he's actually played. He came out and had, I think, some sort of injury to the shoulder, something like that. He had to have either surgery on or rehab on. I'm not exactly sure. They never came out, obviously, but it's took him 2 years to get it rehabbed and get it to where now he can actually start taking legit snaps with the first and second team offenses and get out there and actually show what he can do. So
one fun caveat there, I'm sure we'll talk about wide receivers
Yeah.
here in a minute. His twin brother, Josh Dallas, very well could be in the starting rotation of our wide receiver room. He has seen obviously more playing time, has not had the injury bug that his brother had, and he's looking really solid. They were kind of a package deal coming out of high school together, we could see a twin-to-twin connection possibly.
All right, let's move over to the running game. That room looks deep and is highlighted by the return of their leading rusher from 2023, Jalen White. He had 889 yards rushing and 9 touchdowns. The top backup, O.J. Arnold, also returns. He handled about 20% of the rushing attempts in 2023. How did that room look this spring? And do you think we'll see White dominate the carries again in 2024, or will it be more of an even split?
Well, first of all, it looks great. That's probably one of our strongest suits of the whole team.
Yeah.
As long as White is healthy, yes, he should dominate the carries. But there's 3 other guys. You mentioned one of them with O.J. Arnold. He's obviously a great back in that room. Can also catch the ball. In fact, if you look at, I think it was 2 years ago against Morgan State, Matt, where he had the deflective pass he caught for a touchdown. It's a pretty nice little highlight that he has. And then you have 2 others that we have that have not seen as much playing time, but are pretty much talented. One is Terrence Gibbs, a very highly recruited running back out of Florida that he suffered an injury his senior year. So a lot of the big power schools that had recruited him.
30 offers. He had a ton.
Yeah. Pulled out. We were able to recruit him. He came here. He's rehabbed. He should be ready to go and play this year. He probably will see the rotation more. And then we have a young man that saw some playing time as White and O.J. Arnold had their injuries throughout the year. Matt, you got to help me with the pronunciation.
David Badinga.
Yep, Badinga. He is very shifty, quick twitch, very fast, very quick. Um, Smaller on the smaller side, but is tough. And if you give him an inch, he'll take the mile and take it to the house if he's able to. I would say that is probably one of our most overall depth positions we have is solid, absolutely solid. And but yeah, if White's healthy, he'll get the majority of the touches. But there's 4 guys back there that can take the lead if they need to.
Yeah, for a air raid team, right? We have an extremely deep running back room. It's something that we obviously had when we were an option team, but I would say we're probably one of the deepest in the Sun Belt. Certainly probably in the top 3, I would say, just with talent in that room. And it was great. We haven't really lost any with the scheme and less touches and things like that. We continue to really recruit really well at that position.
Well, the passing game is a staple here at Georgia Southern. Like you said, pass happy. We got Anthony Quealy and their leading receiver from last year, Caleb Hood. They're both out of eligibility. Halen Barden transferred to Samford. They brought in LV Bunkley Shelton from Oklahoma and returned their second and third leading receivers, Derwin Burgess Jr. and Dallin Cobb. How did this group look into this in the spring, and did anybody stand out to you?
You want to take it, Cody?
Yeah, I'll take it. Dylan Cobb is standout. Burgess is a standout. That those 2 guys will always probably be on our highlight reels for all the games. They're just very quick. They find a way to get open, and will hit find the open spot on the field, and do what they do. As the transfer from Oklahoma is who I'm very excited to see as how he matches up with the group, to be able to kind of hopefully kind of be that home run hitter, kind of be the guy that you have to, as a defense, are you going to put only 1 guy on him? If you do, well, he'll take advantage of that and beat him. If you put 2 or 3 guys on him, well, that's going to leave either Burgess or Dalen Cobb open, because you can't overmatch on one particular guy, because the other 2 guys will beat you easily. And then as far as depth goes, we mentioned that you have Josh Dallas that's in there. We have Josh Thompson, which is nicknamed the Jet for a reason. He's very fast. He'll probably be the fastest man on the football field for most games. Matt, you want to go ahead? I know that you really like a wide receiver room as well.
So one that you haven't mentioned, I mean, Marcus Sanders Jr. He's in the return game. He's played a lot of special teams. He'll definitely be probably see a lot more playing time at wide receiver. And then Sam Kinnerson, former quarterback, when we ran an option offense, converted to wide receiver after Helton came on. He is a redshirt senior, but unfortunately he got hurt 2 years ago during the Nebraska game. Yeah. He had a breakout game in the first week. We played an FCS opponent, but he looked great in that, had like 120 yards and a touchdown or 2. And then looked really good with like 3 catches, I believe, in the Oklahoma game. Then unfortunately got hurt and was sidelined all of last year. So, definitely look for him. Small guy, again, former option quarterback, 5'9", 165. Probably be like one of those slot guys, but he definitely can make some noise. I would not be shocked at all if you see Sam Kinnerson's name on the all conference list at the end of the year.
So Hood and Burgess Jr. ran most of the routes with 500 plus each. Who steps up into Hood's role?
Dalen Cobb.
It's Dalen Cobb. With probably Sam Kinnerson as the backup, and then probably Sanders as there in the mix too.
Yes.
All right. And then what can you tell us about early enrollee and true freshman Carmelo Mays? We've heard he's really, really fast.
I haven't heard too much. Have you heard that he's fast? That's great. I'm trying to go back and remember what all that I kind of remember about the spring practice or the spring game. I will say this: they have definitely recruited speed for the wide receiver room. Obviously, if you're faster than your opponent's defensive backs, you're going to have a huge advantage there. I'm trying to. If he does play, I wouldn't be surprised if he's in some sort of rotation with Sanders or Burgess. And it's going to be used mainly as a deep threat in terms of opening space and getting down the field like we have used Josh Thompson the last couple of seasons.
Yeah, I saw I don't remember who it was. I saw someone on YouTube talking about Carmelo Mays, and they said he ran a 4.340. I couldn't verify that anywhere, but that's pretty fast. So it just caught my attention when I heard that.
I mean, Kitterson's up there too. He's probably got 4.3 speed. We've got a lot of fast guys, and I would say
Thompson too.
Yeah, Jet Thompson. Yeah, so fast quarterback room. They're getting taller, right? In the past, they've been primarily blockers in the option offense, and on the smaller side, we are seeing some taller guys there, but still kind of in that like 6 foot range. But every now and then you'll see that 5'9", 5'10" guy. But very similar to the quarterback room, right? This is one that we're seeing a lot of depth now in year 3 of the air raid offense. We're seeing a lot more high school guys that are coming up through the system, not relying on those transfers that we've done the past 2 years to like plug and play. So just really excited about the wide receiver room and the future there.
Moving over to the tight ends, how would you describe the tight end usage for this offense to someone who's never caught a game?
Underused.
Underutilized for sure. Talk about size. So we had a guy transfer from Kentucky, Keaton Upshaw, and he was 6'7", Cody,
yes.
I believe. I mean, just like really any team, but certainly Sunbelt teams, right? A complete mismatch on the linebackers and just underutilized. I mean, he had playing time, he had catches, had a few touchdowns, I believe, but not utilized the way we would hope. Now, Applin obviously was the tight ends coach. He's now the offensive coordinator. So we'll see what happens there. But Cody, I'll let you take kind of where we stand. Upshaw was a kind of one and done guy as well. So I'll let Cody take who he's looking forward to.
Yeah, I will say this: the tight end room, as well as all the skill position groups, wide receiver and running back, have all very, 3 or 4 deep with guys that can plug and play and start if need to. And again, it's a position that I think Matt and I discussed in our podcast the last couple of seasons that has not been utilized the way that we want, to use the mismatches to kind of create the holes and to create the openings for the other skill position players, such as wide receiver, running back, and take advantage of a linebacker that's too small or too short, and then also take advantage of a defensive back you put on that's way too short, that you can use your body to get the ball and at least move the ball down the field. But I am excited. Obviously, we had Tyler Fromm that has transferred over from Auburn, which was a huge get in the offseason that kind of helped replenish that depth that we lost. Because I believe we lost 2 pretty important tight ends this last season. As far as Tyler Fromm goes, you have Bo Johnson, who's been here. I want to say going back to 2017, 2018 is when Bo Johnson's been here. He's also very athletic and somebody that he doesn't get a lot of the publicity, but it's just as athletic as all the other tight ends that we have. If you follow baseball, his dad was Charles Johnson, the catcher for the Florida Marlins when they won their first World Series. And then if you go look down there, you have Evan Lester Jr., who was another one. He was a transfer from Mercer that has been in and out of the rotation the last couple of years. He's a very quick, more of a wide receiver type tight end that you would see in there. We've used him in a couple of goal line packages the last couple of years in terms of just kind of flanking out and being able to put the ball in the end zone. But in terms of the tight end, it's athletic. It's the size and the mismatch that you want as a tight end group. I just hope that we see more play calling to that position and that we see that utilized more in this offense to open up our offense and not let defenses just sit on the boundaries or just try to stop the run game, and stop the run.
Speaking of Upshaw, I watched Shaw's spring game, 2 years ago, and I thought he looked great in that spring game. I thought he was going to do big things last year, and like I said, it never really materialized.
He was a monster, man.
Dude,
I was so excited about him. Yeah, so excited about him. And again, it was not a disappointment thing. When he got touches, he looked good. I mean, the mismatch was there. He had good hands. and decent breakaway speed and can break tackles but man, just not the targets that we were hoping for.
Yeah.
Last season they kind of used, I guess, I don't know what else to call it other than like a two tight end rotation, like with JJ McAfee, which to me was kind of like more like that wide receiver / tight end hybrid, right? And then Keaton Upshaw kind of like as the more traditional tight end, if you will. Do you see that happening again this year? And maybe it's Fromm as the traditional and Evan Lester as that kind of hybrid? Or do you think there's just going to be maybe one guy that gets more playing time? Or what do you think?
It's hard to say. I mean, Fromm, he's the little brother of Jake Fromm, standout quarterback at Georgia. He did see some playing time at Auburn. He was mostly blocking tight end. Could definitely see him utilized in that area, big frame, right? But would love to see him get involved in the passing game as well. Not sure about what Applin has in mind with the formations. Cody, I don't know anything you gleaned from the spring game.
No, they were obviously plays called and designed for the tight end. Obviously, we saw some of that. Fromm had some great catches in the spring game. Bo Johnson has always been good in terms of handling the ball. I would more so say that you probably see the rotation of Fromm and Bo Johnson.
Okay.
With Lester in, as well as maybe some of the other freshmen that haven't seen really playing time, that just sort of been redshirted and asked to bulk up the last years too. But yeah, I think it's going to really be Fromm and Johnson that you see mainly.
And you talk about speed. Johnson has it for a tight end, and he has breakaway home run type speed. We've seen it. He's had some fumble concerns in the past, but yeah, he could definitely be a game changer for us.
Well, that offensive line lost 3 of 5 starters, including all Sun Belt first teamer and right guard Khalil Crowder, starting center Chandler Strong, and then left guard Pishon Wembley returns. How did this group look in the spring?
Good. I think that is a tribute to the new offensive line coach that we got. The first year that we had our offensive line coach came from UAB, which is Richard Owens, who's now the offensive line coach at Louisville. He left after the first year. The name of the offensive line coach from last year escapes me, Matt. So if you know, you can shout it out. But he came in for a year, had experience at Oregon State, Wisconsin, and so forth. And you kind of saw a decline in our offensive line play from year 1 to year 2 under Helton. And then he left to go to BYU. We were able to get our current offensive line coach Langford from Western Kentucky. He obviously, being at Western Kentucky, understands the offense, knows what the expectations are. I saw a better offensive line than what I think I saw previous year or last year. And as long as the offensive line continues to gel, to me, one of the biggest is going to be replacing those tackles, honestly.
Yeah.
And just being able to keep the defensive ends that we go up against in check and not let them get around and cause too much of a disruption in the backfield. As you said, as we mentioned, the quarterback situation, again, whoever we throw back there is going to be pretty green, at least the first couple of weeks. So all the protection that we can get for them is going to be huge in terms of their success going forward.
Do you have any thoughts on who might get that nod at right tackle? Like I said, you got your center coming back, you got your left guard, so you're trying to get your tackles, and then I guess I mean maybe Wembley isn't staying at left guard and maybe he's switching to right guard. I don't know. Is he stuck there at left guard, do you think, or do you think they're going to flip this line?
I would say that he probably stays at left guard. We have a Caleb Cook. He got injured in game 2 last year. That's coming back. He'll be at right guard. As terms of your tackles right now, from what I'm seeing, it looks like maybe Bryson Broadway, who was a Georgia State transfer a couple years ago, maybe at left tackle. And then at right tackle is, I think, Justin Kenyuk. He was a transfer from North Carolina that we have. So maybe that's probably what those 4 positions will look like. We'll see. Again, going into fall camp, anything can happen, but it would probably be the Broadway, who's been here for a couple of years now, and then the transfer from North Carolina will probably be at right tackle. So if that's the case, just want to see them gel as quickly as we can and become a unit.
Yeah, and I would say depth-wise, we have two guys that were transfers from smaller schools, FCS schools, HBCUs actually, and Kyle Frazier out of Savannah State was all-conference player there, and Don Boyd from Alabama State was all-conference player there. So definitely have a lot of depth there.
If you guys had to pick an offensive player to have a breakout type season, who would you pick? And you both can pick different guys.
Go, Matt. I'll let you have this one first.
Oh, man, there's a lot of choices. I mean, obviously, like quarterback is the easy one because if whoever of the three guys that it is, if they fail, we're going to fail as a team, right? We're not going to reach the goals that we want to. But I'll go offense. I already mentioned him, but I do think Sam Kinnerson. I'll say either Sam Kinnerson or Josh Dallas. I think one of those two guys are going to have a breakout year. I think the guys that you think are going to be maybe 1 and 2 on the wide receiver room won't be once the season starts playing out. I think we're going to see some young guys step up. So yeah, I'll go with Sam Kinnerson as long as he's healthy, as long as he sees playing time. And then my backup would be Josh Dallas.
Yeah, I'll go Dalen Cobb, wide receiver. I think he'll be the one that'll be the breakout and really kind of show up on the scene and make everybody take notice. So that'll be who I say will probably have the breakout season.
If you're watching on YouTube, please hit that like and subscribe button. And if you're listening in podcast form, please rate and review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Thank you all for your support. And until the next time, we are the G5 Hive.
Yeah.